The line itself stretches from Beauly, adjacent to Inverness in the north of Scotland, running through the Highlands of Scotland, through the Cairngorms, down through Dromocta, and down through towards Stirling.
This project has been a huge challenge. It's a multidisciplinary, all the way from the design, the engineering, right through to the construction.
The major challenges on this project for the construction element was the logistics of operating over a construction area which is 220 kilometres.
In the initial stages it was a learning curve for all the parties just due to the enormity of the actual project we're doing, the logistics, the volume of men that were required, the skill level of the men that were required. But very quickly both sides of the contract got up to speed.
The geography itself is a challenge. If you've got an incident where you need to get the emergency services to it, you've got to be able to tell them exactly where you are. So every tower is labelled with its grid coordinates.
The biggest challenge would be the ground, the topography of the line. So things like proximity to water courses, road, rivers, overhead power lines all had to be taken into account.
To deliver the project, we've had to undertake the construction of over 250 kilometres of access tracks. We're taking our heaviest construction equipment through the mountains of Scotland. The only way we can do that is put in proper access roads which will allow us to transport steelwork, concrete, people, equipment all over the place.
The weather up here plays a big controlling factor in what we do because where we are in the remote highlands, if it snows or if there's poor weather, adverse weather, that really prohibits what we do. Obviously the zero harm culture is something that we all need to work together to achieve. And given what we're doing and where we're doing it, it's going to be a big challenge for everybody, but I'm sure as a team we can all pull together and work together towards that target. Well, once we've got the access tracks in, the starting point for us is to build some foundations. In an ideal world, the ground would be level and flat, but where we are, it's not so level and flat. It's extremely remote, very rugged, and it's extremely challenging as well.
The size of foundation footings can be almost 50 metres apart from leg to leg, so that means site investigations have to be quite concise. As an engineer, I need to look at safety, what are the environmental impacts. Is it actually possible to put in a foundation? Is it possible to put in a crane pad?
We went with all different types of foundations, rock anchor foundations, conventional foundations, very large excavations, some of them more buoyant, very large square, anything up to 8 metres square, 6 metres deep.
We were able to establish the best way of building this line was use cranes rather than typical derrick erect. And we've got an awful lot of expertise now at putting these together in a fairly efficient fashion and then building them in quite congested sites.
The guys on the ground would have built a lot of towers in the past, so the main challenge hasn't been actually building the towers, it's been building them where they've been building them. Tight spaces, size of mountains, hills, peaked ground, so that's been the biggest challenge. In the winter it's been the winds and the rain and the snow, getting the crane moved around. It's not easy to move a 100-ton crane across an icy road.
The first thing you've got to do when you're wiring any sort of power line is get a pilot through. You've got to get from tower centre to tower centre in pretty much a straight line. So all our pilot ropes go out by helicopter. Pilots are very, very skilled at this.
We have the opportunity to be erecting the tower with the highest altitude in the UK. You go through the canal, you go through the towpath, you go through the A82, and then there's a huge incline up there. You have rotated bundles on there, so it's a new thing, help counteract galloping on the line. And that's all been worked out by our designs department. They've looked at the terrain, they've looked at the wind speed, they've thought about the snow, looked at worst conditions, and they've come out with that design.
We have community liaison officers that work on the project, and their job is to communicate to the community and to landowners. So they will attend local community meetings, they will go and visit landowners and generally keep them up to date.
A lot of the communities have benefited, even with regard to just the paper shop or the sandwich shop, bed and breakfasts, flats, all sorts of things. It's been a huge boost to the local community.
We learned a lot about site drainage, how to prevent an access track getting washed out, and the sort of protection measures that work on site to make sure that we don't pollute the environment.
In terms of the protected species, we have otters, we have water voles, we have red squirrels, we have bats. Adders are another protected species on the project, and the challenge for us is to do the necessary surveys to identify those habitats and make sure that we avoid the animals during construction works.
When you're doing reinstatement, you have to get it right the first time. So again, it is very important that this is planned properly and that we put everything back the way in which it was originally.
On completion of the new line, we are also responsible for removing the existing 132 kV line. The steelwork is cut up into manageable pieces, put into skips and removed from site.
Now that I've seen the north section completed and some of the sites actually being reinstated, I think the landowners and the local authority will be very pleased with the results.
You see it on paper and you kind of think that it's going well and you can tick a box, and then you come out and see it in real life. It's just amazing.
I think a major contributing factor is the teamwork that is developed between SSE and Balfour Beatty in what are very difficult, challenging physical conditions.
One of the great joys for me has been seeing the development of our young engineers and the capability that we now have to build what is a very technically complex line.
Now that we've completed the project and the power's now running through the line, got to be honest, there is a massive sense of achievement.
The whole of the team that's been involved in this project has done a fantastic job, and one that leaves a really good lasting legacy.